Welcome to Trillium Talk TV, something new, something better. I'm your host, Greg LaRue, and tonight I'm joined by founder of the Trillium Party, Bob Yaciuk. Bob, welcome to Trillium Talk TV.
Thanks for having me here, Greg. I'm looking forward to it, and, well, let's answer some questions. Let's get a little bit more information out there about what the Trillium Party is all about.
Well, first I just want to mention that last week was our inaugural show, but it turns out too many people were streaming the NHL trade deadline, and our feed was a little bit choppy. We expect that the problems are solved. Also, I'm told that we upgraded our package with Bell, so everything should be running smoothly. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Well, we'll see what I was like at the end by the end of the show there. And I want to put a special thank you to Jordan Miller, our producer here, who's putting together this whole show here. And if anything goes wrong, it's on Jordan Miller's head. And you made the NHL analogy there again. And I love saying this. You know, people say, I like to feel like, we may be the worst team in the NHL, but we're in the NHL, the political NHL. We're there. So we'll just have to go up in the rankings a little bit by getting more people in provincial parliament.
Well, unfortunately, unlike the Ottawa Senators, you can't tank intentionally for a draft pick. There is no reward for failure. You're going to have to fight it out.
And that's what we're prepared to do, and that's what we're doing. We're making a difference out there, and it feels good.
Well, given that last week's feed was so choppy, Bob, why don't I get you to reintroduce yourself? Why did you found the Trillium Party?
Because it needed to be done, and that sounds pretty high and mighty. But you know what? It needed to be done. Everybody I seem to know complains about the government. Everybody I know doesn't like what's happening in the government, and so it was said to me, "Well, if you don't like what's being done, either shut up or do something about it." And I thought, what an epiphany! Good call. Why don't I do something about it? And that's when I had enough of the PCs. I had enough of provincial politicians in general. And I said, I know I've tried for over 30 years to try and change it from the inside. That's a futile gesture. So many people say change it from the inside. Well, I tried for 30 years to change it from the inside. And I realized at the age of 58, the only way you can ever change provincial politics is from the outside. And we're doing that now. We're making changes so much in politics right now. It's unbelievable. Changes that you can see today.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Why is it so impossible to change things from the inside? What sorts of barriers did you and people who are like-minded face?
Well, let's start off with a phrase that we use quite often is, they're all the same and they're all to blame. I believe all three parties are pretty much the same. They have a party whip that tells them what to do. The job of a party whip is this. If you don't do what the leader tells you, that man or woman comes out and punishes you. You're representing 100,000+ people in your riding. And if you don't do exactly what you're told, Greg, there's a person that comes out of their office, reprimands you, cuts some privileges, can even send you home, can order you not to come to provincial parliament. And by and large, when a lot of these members are being punished and they're told to go home, they go home. There's nobody should be able to tell a member of provincial parliament when or how they should represent them in provincial parliament. Anyways, well, I guess I don't. Does that answer it?
Well, it does. So what you're saying is that these parties don't have anyone holding a literal whip, but they may as well, given how their members react.
Oh, they have. I was with our member of provincial parliament, Jack McLaren. Jack McLaren, for those that don't know, he's the former member of the PC caucus who, after a bunch of interviews, with him and I, we had a lot of sit-downs, and we were talking, and he was very unhappy with the PCs. He didn't like the idea that he had to do what he was told, was expected to do what he was told. And when he had the courage to stand up and represent his constituents, he was punished. So we're walking through the halls of Queen's Park. And I remember we were walking by the caucus room, the PC caucus room. And it's a big room where all the members of the opposition too. The Liberals have their own too. Kathleen Wynne has her own caucus room, the Liberal caucus room, the government's. And they go in there and they discuss how they're going to vote in different issues and what they should do. And I guess their strategies. And I remember Jack looking at me, he says, there is no place that is a bigger bully pit than that place. He told me, Bob, if you could ever hear what went on in those places, it's stuff that would be deemed illegal in any schoolyard. People would be sent home. There'd probably be a children's aid investigation if anyone could see what happened in those offices. It was a place where they think they can say anything to you. They can intimidate you. They can threaten you. And that's a provincial caucus. That shouldn't be. Every member of provincial parliament should feel proud to represent his people, proud to do what's right for the people in their office and or in their riding. And that's the whole premise of the Trillium Party of Ontario, representation.
Thank you.
Well, Jack McLaren takes a stand on principles and crosses the floor to join your party. That sounds impressive. Sounds like you must have gotten quite a bit of buzz in the press over that.
Oh my God. Let me tell you, I believe it's on February 22nd. The Trillium Party was presenting a private member's bill. And in that private member's bill, it was the Affordable Electricity Act. It had some really good stuff in there for reducing hydro costs to both families as well as industry, to get jobs going again, because that's what Ontario is all about, is jobs, right? So he's introducing his bill, he's answering some questions, and normally with a private member's bill from the fourth party, it's just going to get crushed in no time. You know, the other big guns come out and boom, 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 this sucks because of this, or a few platitudes here and there, but it's can't implement it. And it looked like it was going by, you know, by the way of the dodo bird there. And then Jack McLaren stated what is a fact. He said there's some other legislation made regarding hydro that was put in place by the caucus and the government caucus, and they put it in place, and it had to go through a consultation process by law. And Jack said what this legislature did was illegal, and when that happened, this happened.
The Auditor General said in her 2017 report, no such plan had ever been approved in the previous 10 years as required by legislation. This legislature did nothing to stop the government from breaking the law. The MPP did not...
I'd ask you to withdraw.
It's true.
I would ask you to withdraw.
I can't withdraw the truth.
Name the member. I name the member from Carleton, Mississippi Mills.
I name the member from Carleton, Mississippi Mills.
Well, Bob, what was that all about?
You can't withdraw the truth. That's what Jack McLaren said. He stated a truth in that provincial parliament, and the next thing you know, the Speaker of the House jumped up and said, withdraw it. And this is what a lot of people don't know. Whenever a speaker jumps up and says, withdraw it, well, as soon as the member says, I withdraw it, it's removed from Hansard. It's removed from the video record. It's like it never happened. It's like something out of what we imagine an old world Egyptian movie. Strike the names off of the stone, whatever. And it never happened. Jack McLaren said that this government and the other legislatures in Parliament broke the law. And as soon as he stated the truth, he was thrown out. Is that what our legislature is all about now? You say the truth, you get thrown out. You say all this other mumbo-jumbo stuff that seems to go on for hours and hours and hours, and you're allowed to stay. But as soon as you say the truth, you get thrown out. Jack McLaren is a man of integrity. The Trillium Party believes in integrity, and that's why he was thrown out, and he never recanted. That's what you can expect from every Trillium representative. And you won't get it from the other parties, I guarantee. It was during his own bill, during his own bill, that happened. You know, I can't emphasize how important this is, and people have to notice it. You know, I don't know how we can actually get this message out more, but right now it's had over 700,000 hits. I said those words, 700,000 hits on the YouTube channel or Facebook. So whatever we can do to make it more noticeable, I want people to wake up and take notice. So,
well, I mean, that speech sure was brave, but I don't know if that was really dramatic enough to hammer the point home.
So what can we do? Let's give that over to Jordan, our producer. Jordan?
can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. I think that's absolutely true. And you know, well, you're going to have to expect a lot more truth from the Trillium Party. You've been getting it for 3 years right now, and you're going to be getting it for a lot more years after we get our members into the legislature. And the people of Ontario are going to be benefiting from it.
Well, Jack's quite the character. What are some of the things that he's been voting on?
Well, one of the things was, well, the exact reason why Jack came over to us was because he couldn't vote for the things that he wanted to. We voted, I have a sheet here of a few things where Jack voted alone. And, well, for the bubble bill, Bill 168, the bubble bill. Now, this bill was created a 50-meter no-go zone around abortion clinics to supposedly stop harassment. Okay, the point is whether the abortion zone or other place. The fact of the matter is it's a bill against free speech. You take out the word abortion clinic, you're going to, substitute next to MPP's offices? Are you going to, hey, here's one that unions should be all over. Are you going to be putting in there no protesting or anything around 50 meters within a business? I mean, where do you draw the line? This is a bill that attacks free speech. And that's why we voted against it. How about the cannabis bill 174, which says we need another LCBO type distribution system for cannabis. You know, I remember I did a speech in Queen's Park, out in Queen's Park, and it was a bit of a rally. And I don't know whether you believe in selling marijuana or not selling marijuana, or whether it's good or bad. Again, that's not the point of this bill. The marijuana is coming. People apparently voted for that by voting for Justin Trudeau. Well, that's the decision that's been made. Now, the object of the provincial government is to make sure it's distributed and safely with the children. Well, the people that the innocent. Let's make sure that they're not they're protected sufficiently. And we believe, the Trillium Party believes, that that's through free enterprise. So I'm doing a speech out there, and I said I looked up the definition of cartel, and I can't remember it exactly, but a cartel is a group of people that want to control the distribution, the production, and every aspect of an industry. That's called a cartel. Well, that would be the Ontario Liberal Party, because they not only want to do all those things that a cartel is defined as, and they want to do it with drugs, marijuana. So by definition, the Ontario Liberal Party is a drug cartel. I'm sure there's going to be a lawyer involved somewhere there. But that's exactly what they're doing. The LCBO model is not a good model for business.
But Bob, I think we can all agree that the LCBO is a model of efficiency and accountability when it comes to liquor distribution. Why wouldn't you expect the same with other drugs?
I certainly hope, Greg. I really like you a lot, but I hope you're saying that tongue-in-cheek. the LCBO is... people say, oh, it works really well. You know, it's really successful. It makes a lot of money. Well, that's like opening up the only lemonade stand in the desert. You can sell whatever you want, and if you're the only one doing it, you cannot fail. The LCBO right now can charge whatever they want for booze, for alcohol. You have no choice but to pay for it. They can decide what kind you're going to drink. You have no say in it. They can decide when you should drink it. They can decide how much you're going to be taxed, and they can decide every aspect of it. And the sad part is so many Canadians go, okay, I guess that's okay. Fact is, most of the other places in the world have figured out the private sector does it better. The LCBO is not an efficient model for business. Never have you ever heard of an LCBO being closed down because they sold alcohol to a minor, and they have sold a lot of alcohol to a lot of minors. But in private sector, you see a variety of stores, for instance, that sell cigarettes or something like that. That's another substance that is closely controlled. They do not sell it to minors, or if they do, they're punished severely where they lose their ability to make a living. They make sure they follow the rules. Don't cut the private sector out of things. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to government should be in charge of everything. And so far, they're in charge of too many things. Private sector for the marijuana is the way it should go, because it's not going to stop crime. It's only going to increase it, because there's going to be the other people that can sell better, sell it for less, and they're going to be on the street corners outside the LCBOs or the Marijuana Control Board, and they're going to be selling it to people without any regulation, and that's what we have to protect against.
Well, so these are some interesting votes from Jack McLaren, but I have to ask, with only one member of provincial parliament. How do you expect to change anything?
We're changing stuff already, Greg. And you might, well, what are you changing? We've done so many impossible things right now. The Trillium Party has done. First of all, we started a political party. It's not an easy thing to do. We started a very popular political party. In fact, it's so popular, it's starting to threaten other political parties. And one of the outfits we're threatening are the PCs. To the point of 3 months before an election, there's 4 candidates now who, for 3.5 years, were saying we want a carbon tax, we support a carbon tax. For 3.5 years, say we love the sex ed curriculum. For 3.5 years, say we accept that the hydro rates are going up. In fact, the former leader of the PCs, Patrick Brown, is on record to say, I expect the hydro rates to go up even after after the PCs get elected. He said the words. Now, 3 months before an election, all of a sudden they have taken our policies. No carbon tax. Get rid of the Samsung contracts that are causing hydro to go up through the roof. Also, the sex ed curriculum, cancel it. And this has been done in the last week or so. Unbelievable. So when someone says we're not affecting politics, we are affecting politics. I made a tongue-in-cheek a press release and a report that said, hey people, quit stealing our slogans, because we had Mulrooney, one of the leadership contestants, took our slogan. Our slogan is something different, something better. It has been for 3 years. And Ms. Mulrooney said something different, something new. So, and then I hear Andrea Horvath of the NDP. She actually was on interview, said we're something different, something better. I mean, she took it word for word. And then so I made a tongue-in-cheek thing saying, steal our policies, not our slogan. Well, they've stole our policies. And you know what? That's how you make a difference. That's how you make a difference.
But what good does it do if they steal your policies during the election and then once they get into office abandon them completely?
Well, anyone that makes policies 2 months before an election, why do you think they're going to get rid of them 2 months after an election, after they get into power? Oh, wait, that's right. Maybe 30 to 40 years worth of history. We'll say that's exactly what's going to happen. And then they're going to blame it on everyone else. Stick with somebody that has been saying it for 2.5, 3 years. That's us. And how about another impossible thing we did? We had 623 members from one riding association of another political party in King Vaughan come over to us. Come over to the Trillium Party of Ontario. Plus 24 of 27 other executives come over to the Trillium Party. Never been done in the history of this country. Never mind Ontario. And why? And how much news media did you hear of that, Craig? Greg?
I don't know if I heard any news media of that.
None of it, right? One of the most powerful statements that has ever been made in the history of the province and the country. How about, and then Jack McLaren getting 700,000 plus hits, being escorted out during his own bill. Never heard that in the media. Never heard that, the 600 people in the media. What's going on here? So, anyways, while we have Trillium Talk TV, that would be the new media. Let's get the message out with that.
I certainly hope so, Bob.
So, do we have some questions here?
Yes, we do. Hey, Bob. Brian Everhart here in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. Where does the Trillium Party stand on the windmills that have the people of Wallaceburg and surrounding areas angry over their water wells? And the Otter Creek Wind Project that is slated to start any day?
Okay, I'm not familiar with the Otter Creek Wind Project, but I can tell you what our stance is on these windmills. This was a deal struck with the devil, meaning that we are paying so much for these things. Our hydro rates are through the roof because of these windmill deals. This windmill deal could have been cancelled with zero penalty, 100% zero penalty on December the 31st of this last year. So just a month and a bit ago. Yeah, a couple months ago. And it wasn't. With zero penalty. You never even heard about it. The government in power never said anything. The opposition never said anything about it. The Trillium Party of Ontario held a press conference trying to alert people to do it. But no one heard about it. Why is that? And now we're against the windmills. Stem to stern. It's destroying not just the water stuff, but there's all kinds of health ailments that are being proven monthly health ailments that are happening because. But it's not financially responsible to do this because we have so much hydroelectric power. We're turning it back as far as we can because we have this contract that says we have to buy this wind power and solar power. It's costing so many cents per kilowatt hour. That's like 5 times higher than our other hydro, and it's not right. Ontario thrives on manufacturing. This hydroelectric cost is killing our manufacturing. Plants, people who have jobs for people are not going to be moving to Ontario. And you know, they demonstrated that by moving elsewhere. We're doing corporate welfare, paying companies to keep their jobs in Ontario. Yeah, we'll pay you to have to keep a factory going in Ontario, and it's just the poor slobs. The rest of the province, people go to work every day having to pay that through their taxes. Come on, that's not right. We're competitive. We're good people. We deserve to have a good future.
Well, I just want to correct you about one thing, Bob. I don't think it's the windmills that are solely responsible for the increases in hydro rates. I suspect that the canceling a gas plant may be related to that as well.
You're pressing my buttons, Greg. You're pressing my buttons.
Well, if you look at your hydro bill, you have an electricity charge. You also have a debt retirement charge, a delivery charge.
Call it whatever.
I'm not sure.
Call it whatever you want. It's the
what
ABC charge.
Where canceled gas plant fits in amongst those charges, but it's somewhere.
1.6 billion to 2.2 or 2.4 billion. Nobody actually quite knows how much is gone by not building something. I don't know if we can afford to not build anything else. My gosh, we could get, what's the phrase I hear you use? A billion here, a billion there, starts to add up some real money later on. We can't comprehend that much money. Something that I've said in the past is, $1.6 billion. Let's use the low number for not building something. You know what? That could translate to a cure for cancer. You're going, what are you talking about, Bob? Well, you could probably rent a 100,000 square foot building in Toronto. Let's make it 200,000 square feet because twice as much, twice the cost. How's that bad? You could rent that for X number of dollars, let's say $2 million a year. And then you could hire 100 of the world's leading scientists, 100 of the world's leading scientists, not the second-rate ones, and pay them $1 million a year. $1 million to come in. Let's give each of them 2 assistants because it's Thursday and that's what we do. So, or Tuesday and that's what we do. Let's give them and pay them each $100,000. So what are we at? We're at $1.4 billion left. Let's outfit their labs, each one. Another $100 million. Oh, we're at $1.3 billion left. And they could work an entire year on one subject, 100 of the world's best. I'm telling you, you could operate that thing, for 10 years or somewhere in that neighborhood. And the miracles that could be occurred, yet $1.6 billion disappeared someplace. So don't look at it as $1.6 billion and go, oh, well, what are you going to do? Someone said they're sorry about it. Look at it, maybe a cure for cancer was lost. Look at it, maybe another few miles, lots of miles of subway could have been put in. Look at it, more roads could have been paved. Look at it, more schools in rural areas could have been left open. $1.6 billion is a lot of money. You and I can identify with what? $500. Right now, I have been out to dinner with people, government people. I work with government people. We go to a meal and I see a corporate credit card come out. And when I see a corporate credit card, I mean a government credit card come out to pay for it at the end of it. $400 to $500 I've seen the table be picked up, the tab's been picked up. $400 to $500. You know what? That's 1 week's pay for some people that are minimum wage. So when that person throws out that corporate credit card to buy a $500 meal, there is a father or a mother that could have stayed home with their kids for a week. But they got to pick up a nice bottle of wine. They got to pick up a nice 5 or 6 meals.
But you did your bit afterwards and you voted for them, right?
I formed a political party and I started to become Rob.
I guess not. Well,
you actually made me go wide-eyed there. What?
Well, there's a solution to this as well. That is, roughly a week's worth of wages at the minimum wage. So let's just increase the minimum wage and then no problem. $500 meal is easy.
No, let's increase the minimum wage up to $500 an hour. The bottom line is an artificial construct. An artificial construct can only be supported by money that is coming from taxpayers of unlimited amounts. Right now, wouldn't a much better vision for Ontario be this? A minimum wage that wasn't artificially manipulated or stated, but a minimum wage that was reflected by economic success. In other words, Ontario has so many jobs, has so much success going on, that employers are forced to pay $22 for somebody that's working at Tim Hortons because there's too many jobs, not enough people. That's an economy that's built on success. And that's what we should be striving for, not trying to throw a lifesaver out to the few remaining jobs. 50 to 60,000 jobs were lost last month. Oh well. You can't do oh well all the time, Greg, because people are suffering with this oh well attitude, trying to pretend, oh, there's a new news cycle and we're talking about something from America, or we'll talk about something that's talking about overseas. We're losing jobs in Ontario. Someone has to keep their eye on the ball here, and that's looking after the families in Ontario. And that's going to be the Trillium Party. That's what I'm doing. I'm committing a lot of years of my life and effort. A lot of good candidates are doing that, and they're committing a lot of their effort with little hope of getting reward on it. But it's the right fight. It's the good fight, and that's what people should be joining in on.
Well said. Well said. Now, what would you say their chances are in some of the ridings where you're more competitive? How many? You've had 600 members cross the floor in King Vaughan.
In King Vaughan, yeah. Hopefully that's going to swing. That would be a nice one. But who knows right now? It's a circus out there. This is like a political, a perfect storm for a new political to rise up, and that's sad. We don't need perfect storm for new political parties to rise up, because that means everything's gone to heck in a handbasket. I'm going to do what I can to try and stabilize it with our political party, but we have a good chance in many ridings. And who knows, at the end of the day, look at the circus with the PCs. Look at the authority with which Kathleen Wynne is just driving through bill after bill after bill and laughing at the people as she's running it through. Do we have any...
Well, Jan Hansen comments on Facebook, aren't you just right-wing conservatives?
Well, Jan, thanks for your question. I don't know why you would say that. I don't know... You probably, I just don't know why you say that. I don't look at ourselves as being right-wing or left-wing. People like to say that. And I've been involved in politics in the past, and I know the transition. People have to say, oh, they're scary people. Next thing you know, oh, first they start off with, you guys are crazy. Then, oh, you guys are scary. And they like say, oh, you're right-wing or you're left-wing. And then, you know what? They vote for us and we win. So that's where in the transition where we're in. Right now, I like to think of it as common sense. Tell me, I like talking to some people, and I say, okay, you're calling me a right wing or a left wing or whatever. And I say, so what right wing policies do you enjoy the most? And they'll say, right wing policy, or a right wing person will say, well, you shouldn't buy it if you can't afford it. Oh, really? So you think that if I went to a long time person that's a liberal, you think they're going to say, oh yeah, I believe in buying stuff that we can't afford? Of course not. There's good people on both sides. And sometimes, well, some of the bills we both voted for, they have been liberal bills. And Jack McLaren voted for them. Trillium Party has voted for them, supported a liberal bill. Some things have been the PC bill, the bill that had been put forward. Jack McLaren voted for it, and Jack McLaren even voted for an NDP bill. That's because what's good for one riding may not be good for another riding, but use your common sense. And that's what we are, common sense.
And nobody whipped him after he voted for the NDP bill.
Well, no. When he voted for a good bill that people liked, we sometimes went out for a dinner and celebrated.
Fantastic. Sam Sotiropoulos writes, Bob, I have a question for you. Are you a Freemason, Shriner, Rosicrucian, and or do you belong to any society or association which requires you to swear an oath of allegiance?
Wow, that looks like one of... If I was going through the jungles now, I'd be thinking, oh, that just looks like a big punji pit that's opening up in front of me. That's a trap question. And Sam, I'll have no problems. As I said before I started this whole meeting, I said that I was going to be 100% honest, and I will be. I was a Rotarian. Rotarian. I was a Freemason, and I was a Boy Scout. Swear an oath of allegiance. I don't think any of those require swearing an oath of allegiance, and I was those members. A lot of people who are outside of it, they like to oh, you guys are evil, or you have another weirdo agenda. You know what? All the clubs I belonged to worked on supporting the community, helping the community out. There was no thing that said, oh, you have to swear an oath till death do you part or something like that. Nothing. Student Party is about family values, looking after your community. Always has been, always will be. So that's where we're at. So I hope I haven't burst your balloon there, and I'm not ever going to hide anything. Any community that supports it, any organization that supports this community, does goodwill. Hey, I'm behind it. Knights of Columbus, I'm behind it. Anyway, the Oddball Club, I think that's one of them. I think I bought something at some of their auctions. I'm behind it. Helping your community is what it's about.
Awesome. And, as long as you leave the club before the Kool-Aid is served, you're probably safe, right?
I'm not even going to answer that one. No, hey, one of the biggest clubs that I'm most concerned about are the provincial Liberals and the provincial PCs and the provincial NDP. Oh my gosh, now that's an allegiance. Hey, yeah, don't they have to swear an allegiance when they sign, when you swear the oath when you become a member of provincial parliament? Oh my gosh, those people swearing allegiances. Come on. It's about community. It's about helping the people in Ontario. I can't get over the $1.6 billion. I keep going back to that. What about long-term care in this province? Right now we got the baby boomers going in, and they're getting older. And,
well, let me just stop you for a second there, Bob. Did you join some sort of psychic club at some point? Because I'm just glancing at my screen and I see another question. We could have used that $1 billion for long-term care. Could we have also used it to stop school closures? This comes from Elizabeth Marshall on Facebook.
Well, 1.2 billion, 1.4, 1.6, 2.2 billion. Who knows how much it was? But all these things that Elizabeth, you're suggesting we could have done, none of it can be done with $10 billion if you don't have a good attitude, if you don't have a mission to do it. Right now, we have a huge problem with rural school closures happening. It's like they're trying to phase them out of the rural area, trying to force the rural area to come into the urban area. No, Canada was built with people that went right across this entire country. We have to expand into more of the rural area. We have to keep the schools open. In fact, it's in a mandate. I'm not sure it's the education mandate or whether it's the Constitution. I'm not sure. But I do know, I was reading about it the other day. It's mandated that we provide services to rural areas where population is. And so we have to keep those schools open. I was on a tour of a farm the other day, and it was this onion farm. And oh my gosh, I did not know it was that complicated. There's pieces of machinery that are half as big as my house going through these fields, and he's showing off. I did not know how much you had to know to be a farmer. I honestly didn't. And I was shocked. And then we're talking about all these rural schools that are being closed. Well, some of them have extra classes. And these extra classes in there talk about rural issues, farming issues, and that sort of thing. Well, as soon as the kids are forced to get on a bus and move into the urban areas, they don't get that rural education classes that they grew up with. And they go, oh, well, they're losing part of their heritage, part of their culture. Keep the schools open. Keep the medical centers open in the rural areas. And, well, there you go.
Or, who knows, maybe we can just not spend the money and not take on quite so much debt. I believe the deficit has been record-breaking over the past few years.
No one knows what it is. It's just more than we can afford. We have more debt than anybody else other than a sovereign nation, and more than most sovereign nations. That's pretty cool. I mean, we are number one. Yay. Wait, maybe not. You'll never pay our debt off in our lifetime. Certainly not in your children's lifetime, and I'm not sure about their lifetime. And, I love people that say, well, we're going to have a balanced budget come 2020 or something like that. Oh my gosh, Greg. That would be like someone coming to a dinner party and trying to impress me with saying, Sylvia and I were thinking of not spending more than we make in 2020. But until then, we're going to keep on spending more than we make. When would be a good time? Tomorrow. Tomorrow would be a good time. Take the short-term pain, have the long-term gain.
Well, there's actually another spin on that whole line of reasoning, Bob, and that is that hey, as long as the economy grows faster than the interest grows on the debt and the deficit, in the long run, we're fine. Just like it doesn't matter if you max out your credit cards, as long as you get raises consistently every year, more than you're adding to the debt, the debt eventually shrinks into nothingness as your income balloons.
How can that go wrong?
Well, so it's not so much that
Oh,
you
wait,
have
I'll tell you how it can go wrong. People are losing their houses every day. 50 to 60,000 jobs are gone last month. Well, too bad for them paying off the credit card, isn't it? The economy has to grow. The economy has to be successful. And people don't think about what the ramifications of a family that doesn't have hope. And I'm going to tell you a simple story. And I'm going to be honest, it's a little bit reflective of my when I was a little kid there. My sister and I are driving with my mother and father in the car, and we were poor. Didn't know we were poor, you know. I thought, hey, we're just like everyone else. Life's good. But we're subjected to commercials like everyone else. And I remember they had the Dairy Queen commercial on. It had a little jingle that, well, my sister and I obviously memorized because it's ice cream. Pete's sake. So I remember we were driving down the street and we knew the Dairy Queen was coming up, and we started singing this song, Let's Go to the Dairy Queen, or something like that. And we were singing it over and over, trying to hint to our parents, hey, maybe we should pull in the Dairy Queen's there. And my father turned around and he yelled at us, be quiet, we're not going to the Dairy Queen. I didn't understand that unreasonable response. And now I think, oh man, Dad's really mad. What did I do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. My father didn't do anything wrong. My mother didn't do anything wrong. What was wrong was they couldn't afford to take us to the Dairy Queen. And they felt bad about it. It's a little thing like that. And now what happens is they snap at us. And my father snapped at us. Then my mother snapped at my father. And this is the beginning of a family, how it breaks down. When you don't have security, when you don't have hope, when you don't have a job that you can rely on that pays enough for you to enjoy what you feel are the basics. That's how families break down, and that's how the province and the country crumbles. We have to give hope, we have to have jobs, we have to have security for our families, for myself, for my wife, for the children. That's how you make a province grow.
Well, either that, or we could take the Liberal tack and just give everyone Dairy Queen vouchers, paid for by the government of Ontario. We'd be fine. No more problems.
If you ever, two phrases that really bother me is, I'm just saying, and paid for by the government of Ontario. Paid for the government of Ontario means paid for by you. And probably have the bureaucrat that's getting paid to make sure that it's paid properly, if I can use that term. And so, no, it's paid for by you. Every time I say, this thing has been paid for the government of Ontario, what I would rather see is paid for by you through the government of Ontario. And then get some truth in it.
Fantastic. Let's go to another Facebook question. Scott Jr. Spinks writes, what are you going to do for low-income families?
Provide jobs. And I don't mean provide jobs, give it an opportunity where the private sector can really flourish. Really flourish. Right now, when you drive through Ontario, you see all these buildings. You don't see those anywhere else in the country. You can drive out to the prairies, you can drive out to east, and you can drive out west. And all you see is, a lot of shops and things like that. But only in Ontario do you see these massive buildings. All those buildings used to be for manufacturing. Now those buildings are warehouses for stuff that's coming in from other countries. We got to get back to what I said earlier. Hope for people. Hope to go have a job that'll be a good paying job, a secure job, where wages are increased because there's more jobs than there are people to be able to do them. Where you can enjoy having a weekend off with your kids or with your family because there's enough security in that job. Right now, we're all working overtime. We're trying to put more hours, and it's become the new norm. Often when you travel to other provinces, you ask somebody, so if you go to, I promise you go to Montreal, what do you do? Oh, I enjoy karaoke with my friends and stuff like that. If you ask somebody, or you go to BC, what do you do? Well, we like skiing and tennis or whatever. You go to Ontario, what do you do? The immediate response is, oh, in my case, I'm a water treatment expert. Or in your case, I believe you're a computer programming type of guy. We talk about our work. We're obsessed with our work. And we're not obsessed with getting our families. And that's got to change a little. The balance has to move a little bit. I believe in working hard, and I believe in getting reward for working hard. So what am I going to do for couples if the Trillium Party were king for a day and becoming party, or held the balance of power? I would make sure that we create an environment where industry and business want to thrive, because that's security for families.
Well, how do you go about creating an environment like that?
Lower hydro rates. That would be an awesome start, wouldn't it? Our biggest growth in history was probably in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Where not a single person thought, in fact, they were saying, switch over to hydro because it's cheap and it's going to be cheap forever. Not so much anymore. And there wasn't a business that was concerned about turning on a 300 horsepower electric motor and how much it was going to cost. They said, how many more assembly lines can we get in here? How much more business can we get in here? Now they moved to somewhere else. That's a good start. Getting rid of the regulation. Oh my gosh, we have over 350,000 regulations. I promise you we broke 10 of them in this room today. I don't even know what they are, but when you have too many regulations, you have no regulations because people just quit trying to abide by them. Yeah. How about a law? I think it's BC that has a law. Put one regulation in, take two out. I'm all for that. Sounds good to me.
So how does that work? Is it lines of regulation that you take out? Is it specific subsections?
It's the spirit, Craig. What you do is you get fewer regulations, get more people. Let's do a simple example. Somebody in the auto as good with their hands or good with auto body work. So he said, okay, I don't like school work. I don't want to go to university. I just don't. Good for you. Get a trade. Become an electrician. Do whatever you want. But then they start to say, okay, I'm going to be ABC Auto Body Band, and I'm going to open an auto body shop in the 7-car garage that I have in the back of our farm. Oh, no, you're not. You have to fill out section form 137 through 38, get a permission slip from this, and have a degree in this, and do that. Oh, forget it. I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to go try to work for somebody else. And if that doesn't work out, I'm going on welfare. Boom. People hate bureaucracy. Most people hate bureaucracy. People that don't mind bureaucracy are usually bureaucrats.
Absolutely. We have time for one more question from Facebook. Another one from Jan Hansen. Why are you so against the deficit or debt? Governments can just take on more debt, can't they?
Yeah, sure. You can. And you can work harder and you can work longer. You've never had to work this hard in your life. You've never had to work this hard in your life to make ends meet. Well, or your parents haven't. Generations before that haven't. But you are. And you wake up and you put in a few extra hours of overtime. And you'll keep putting extra. Eventually, the piper has to get paid. And we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen in Greece. We've seen this happen in Ireland. And where, the piper has to get paid. We've had New Zealand, I believe, went bankrupt. Well, that happened. Argentina decided, we're not paying our debts off. Well, it didn't work out so well. When you take on debt, that's your word saying you're going to pay it off again. When you choose to walk away from it, your word's worth nothing. We're Canadians. We have pride. We look after our debts. We pay our debts. If you're not prepared to pay that debt off, then don't take the debt. And that question is kind of, I hope you're saying it tongue-in-cheek, but it concerns me a little bit, Jan, that you're not. Otherwise, I think it'd be good, instead of just borrowing $30 billion this year, federal government-wide, let's borrow $500 billion and then we all get a free car. Well, we kind of know that wouldn't work, and it won't work. What we should be doing is providing jobs. We should be able to buy houses. We should be able to have good places for our families to live. So, what are we at here now?
Well, it looks like we got a few more questions.
Let's do fast questions.
Let's do fast questions. Let's keep rolling with this.
Okay, and I'll try to not get I get blabbermouthy sometimes, so I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to answer questions as quickly as I can.
It's a stream of consciousness thing. We all understand that. Okay, Scott Spinks, what are you going to do about dental coverage?
Nothing. Okay, I haven't even thought about dental coverage, but this is what I know. We have so many arbitrary things that we cover, oddball things, and I can't even think of one now right now. I remember thinking the other day, we should not be covering a lot of this other stuff as long as there's a child that isn't able to get dental coverage, that isn't able to get their teeth fixed. We have to prioritize some of the basics here, but I, in all honesty, I haven't thought about dental. This is one of those questions. So what are you going to do about making sure every child that lives in my block gets dental coverage? It's one of those setup questions. What I do know is we have to be able to provide more health care for more people at a reasonable cover. We have an incredible health care plan, policy. It's modeled after the one in Singapore, which is recognized as #1. It'll virtually, I don't want to say eliminate fraud, and it'll also increase the the quality of health care. Check it out. Check it out. It's amazing. Looks like we have a...
We've got another one. What is your opinion on rebates on electric cars? People spend over $100,000 on a luxury car and get thousands in rebates.
They have to get thousands in rebates because electricity prices are so high now. That was a joke. Please don't haunt me with that in the future. There should be no rebates. There just shouldn't be. If you want it, pay for it. We're all talking about a Tesla, but there's other cars out there, the Volt and the other thing. What we shouldn't be doing is creating special classes. Something that really gets under my craw is we have the 407, not the 407, but the pay lanes in the 400 series highway and Don Valley and such in Toronto area, and you have to have special permits to go in them. You can have multiple people in them. Well, when the taxpayers were asked whether they wanted to build a road, they weren't asked just for special groups of people. They were asked to fund that, putting extra lanes in. Keep those lanes wide open. And the worst one is electric vehicles get to ride for any time they want in there. Our veterans can't. They only have to die for our country. But an electric vehicle can go in there. A Tesla can go in there. A Volt can go in there. Hey, every taxpayer paid for those roads. Get on there. So what is this deal? We're raising the prices of hydro, hand over fist, and we're all saying we should buy electric cars. Huh. Man.
Well, we have to. I mean, if the gas taxes that you are used to pay for the maintenance of the roads go away, we're going to need ever more money spent on electricity to cover the revenue shortfall.
Did I see you in provincial parliament the other day in the Liberal benches? Because that's almost something I would expect. That's almost something I expect.
I'm just messing with you, Bob. Another one. And Elizabeth Marshall writes, what about letting 16-year-olds vote? The Liberals have presented a bill on this. What do you think? Is a 16-year-old able to make that type of life-changing decision?
Well, I'm not about to comment on whether a 16-year-old is able to make a life-changing decision because apparently we've legislated it in so many areas regarding sex changes and things like that. But what I will say is this. This is a bill that's being presented by, I forget the fellow's name, but it's the person from the Liberal MPP it's a private member's bill from the Liberal MPP in the Beaches. Oh my gosh. And it's right before an election, of course, because it's all about winning the election. Too often happens. People throw all these wackadoodle bills into play before an election, just to keep holding their jobs on. But they have long-term ramifications. I mean, something as profound as that should be thought through. And, well, in my opinion, my gut feeling is no. I pretty much don't know a 16-year-old that I really trust able to drive a car properly. I'm sorry about that, 16-year-olds. And I know that all the 16-year-olds aren't going to vote for me. Oh, that's right, because it's against the law for you to. Right now, I'm going to stick with you're old enough to fight for and die for this country. You're old enough to vote. That's a pretty good start. So that's my answer to that. But this buying votes, Pierre Trudeau did it. I'm that generation. I am that one. There was 1 year when Pierre Trudeau federally we are going to make it okay for 18-year-olds to drink. And the drinking age right now, I believe, is 19. So there's 1 year. I was in that year. And it was just before an election where they said all the 18-year-olds are allowed to drink. And oh my gosh, I remember how my friends and colleagues say, oh yeah, we're voting for that guy because you're allowed to drink. Now there's a good reason to vote for somebody. Taxes went up, all that nonsense, and that vote was bought. The next year it went back to 19. But the point is, it was done, obviously, to win votes for that one election. Same as when...
So wait, are you insinuating that Liberals are going to take marijuana away after they get reelected?
No.
Okay.
I'm just going to go no with that one. And
well, it looks like it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you for listening to Trillium Talk TV.
And can you handle the truth?
And can you handle the truth?
Do it.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, see us again. Check out www.trilliumontario.ca and see what could be in your future by supporting a difference instead of doing the same old that's got you in this mess. You keep buying the rhetoric, you keep buying the hocus pocus stuff that they're selling a few months before an election, and you'll keep going to the same hole. Pick something different. Pick something better. We're the Trillium Party of Ontario, and we want to represent you. You help us, we'll help you.
Well, thanks very much to our listeners. He's been Bob Yaciuk. I've been Greg LaRue. Good night, Ontario.